Yes, what can be said about them has been said a bajillion times. One of the biggest names in 70s progressive rock along with Genesis and King Crimson, notorious for smoothly combining elements of classical music, jazz and opera with the raw and aggressive power of rock and roll. Dating back to 1969, they've managed to accomplish what many bands can do today: timelessness. However, interestingly enough, in the mid-70s the band broke up for a short period of time, spawning a whole bunch of solo albums by each of the members, one of which being the bassist Chris Squire's album Fish Out of Water. It wasn't his first solo effort though. The track Fish, Schneideria Primatoris, or whatever is pronounced on Fragile, was written and sung entirely by Squire himself, and it so happens to be my favorite track on that record. So, let's take a closer look at Fish Out of Water and see if it's any good. The album starts off with Hold Out Your Hand, which is a pretty good, energetic start, and it shows Squire's fantastic composition skills, being an excellent blend of classical symphony and the more bluesy side of rock. The vocals, on the other hand, are okay, they'll feel a little strained, to say the least. The guy probably tried to hit the notes he wasn't comfortable singing to compete with John Anderson. Next up, we have Bioside, which could have been a boring filler, but thanks to the very exaggerated in-your-face orchestra arrangement, turns out to be quite enjoyable, cheesily soulful coda to Hold Out Your Hand. Now we're up to Silently Falling, my favorite track by the way, which is one of the songs that take a few listens to really get them. At first, it might seem like the song's trying too hard to impress the listener, exploiting pretty much every progressive rock cliché, but when you finally start to feel it, it's a masterpiece. A track not too simple yet not too complicated so that an average listener wouldn't find it boring, mixed with beautiful sounds of the symphony orchestra and Andrew Jackman's emotional grand piano climax. Unfortunately, we weren't given a nice proper ending, just a cheap fade out. Well, it's a cliché that really needs to go away. How many times have you heard a song that fades out at the end? It's uncreative and gives the song a feeling of emptiness. Next we have Lucky 7, another great song. I'd be lying if I said I'm a fan of songs based off one constantly looping riff, but somehow Chris Squire made it click. I like it. If I were to point out a problem, it would be that the song doesn't go anywhere. In Silently Falling we have this beautiful build-up without much of a payoff, and here is just this driving roads loop that doesn't shut up. The piece transitions into Save, Canon song, the longest track on the record, clocking around 14 minutes, which is pretty much your typical canon. That is, one part repeated over and over, played by different instruments. Other than being obviously an obligatory reference to classical music, it's nothing really more special than a generic vintage film score with vocals and a drum kit. And for a nice closure, it delivers what it should, and that is calming you down. The overall production of the album is not all that great. The mix doesn't have room for the instruments to breathe, there's always too many instruments playing at the same time. I prefer a clearer mix, such as for instance on Red by King Crimson. To sum this all up, Fish Out of Water is a very good record. Chris Squire did his best to serve as an album that has its own flavor without alienating the people familiar with his work with Yes. Although some songs may feel a little bit dated and overproduced, it's a very good addition to any progressive rock collection. I'd give it 4 Fish Out of Water out of 5. By the way, here's my impression of Batman.
I'm Batman.